Welcome to Hey Chaplain. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. My goal is to give law enforcement officers more encouragement than what they usually get. So on this podcast, you'll hear from cops who have been where you are, sharing their wisdom, experiences, and the lessons that they've learned. I interview a wide variety of police on this show, from the LAPD to Scotland Yard, and the guests on Hey Chaplain are going to help you navigate with confidence through your career and beyond. Today we're talking to Police Chief Kendra Brown. She's one of over 300 police chiefs in America who happen to be a woman, and she also happens to be a former participant in the Miss America pageants. That's not the usual starting place for most cops. So I wanted to talk to Chief Brown about being a woman in the hyper-masculine field of law enforcement and what advice she has for surviving and then excelling in this job, especially when people are judging the book by its cover. Here's Kendra Brown. Hello, Chief. How are you today?
I am lovely. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to get to talk to you. You came highly recommended. And I'd love to get an answer to a question I have.
Sure.
What is the difference between Miss USA and Miss America?
I've competed in the Miss America system, not the Miss USA, but Miss USA has, now they have swimsuits. Miss America used to when I competed. Now we don't have swimsuits. But the difference with the Miss America organization is they have the talent event in there. The other competitions don't. So that's what makes it stand out.
So Miss USA is more just the traditional beauty pageant.
That's what it seems. I haven't competed in it, but yes.
Well, that's its reputation, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You were in the more, you had to have academics and talent and, that kind of thing, right?
Yes. And Miss USA may have or academic portion, but I definitely know Miss America, you have to have certain GPAs just to compete locally.
Most people would, they would not make that distinction. Most people wouldn't make the distinction that it's like, oh, you were in a beauty pageant,
But I could sing.
You were just there to look pretty. Certainly we shouldn't be taking you seriously. And you go into law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
How did you go from that track to the other?
Because of the Miss America organization, quite honestly. So
really,
yes, sir. Born in the North, raised in the South, and went to a tiny private Baptist university. And when I got there, I was musical theater major. And my first year there, I tried out for some of the shows, got some of the roles. And one of my friends in the shows said, you should try out for one of these pageants. And I was like, no. And she said, hear me out. Our goal in life, because we wanted to be Broadway stars, that's what we wanted to do for a living. You can see how that worked out for me. But our goal was to audition, get feedback, improve, audition, get feedback. But our private school was also very expensive. And so I ended up competing and didn't win my first one. I placed, but I learned quickly the interview was so crucial and how you have to be very articulate and up to current events and things like that. So then 2 weeks later, I did another one and won it. And as I prepared for the state level, which was Miss South Carolina, we were required as candidates to write a paper to our representative about domestic violence. And I was like, I'm 18, 19. Don't get married and beat each other up at the end. I had no clue. And so in my community, I started following our university police around, our town police around. What'd you do tonight? And so I did ride-alongs, and I got very intrigued. I found out there was a girl in one of my classes whose sister had been murdered in a domestic violence relationship.
Wow.
And it really made me step back. And I said, I want to do more than write a paper that I really don't think anybody's going to read. And so 3 years into my 4-year degree, I changed my major to criminal justice. And here I am.
Wow. Okay. Oh, man, I have so many questions. Do you have a favorite musical?
Phantom of the Opera.
Really?
That's what got me into this. I saw a middle school production because I was in middle school. We were playing the orchestra I play violin, and they were singing. I was like, I want that lead role so bad. Wow. And that's what did it. Phantom of the Opera.
Seems really challenging. Can you sing that role?
At that time, I'm kind of a little rusty, but in my own mind, I really sound like Whitney Houston's Body Garage soundtrack, in my own
There
mind.
you go. There you go. There you go.
But yes, I was classically trained, so that was a good fit for me.
Okay. Okay.
So I loved it.
That was my next question is there a favorite role?
Christine died, but then I'd want to go back and play Carlotta, which is kind of the bad girl in it too. So it'd be fun. But, and then, my mom's from Puerto Rico. So the Hispanic side, I would love to do West Side Story, but I love both lead roles as Maria and Anita, the good girl and the bad girl.
Yeah.
They both have fun roles. So those would be great as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you get the chance to see very much musical theater these days?
Yes, the Oklahoma City has at the Civic Center here, they bring touring companies in. So I will decide if it's something we want to go. My husband and I will go, but if he doesn't want to go, I will go.
do you get to enjoy it, or do you sit back like a critic and think, they should have done this different?
No, I enjoy it. I am the biggest, loudest fan at the end.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I just know the hard work that goes into it. So I have the best of time.
You're a better person than me. Because if I attend like a wedding or a funeral just as an attender,
yes,
I can't hardly turn the criticism off. I'm just like, well, I wouldn't have said that. And why are you doing this out of order? And I'm just like, I'm the worst. And so, yeah. What roles have you played when you were in college?
Oh, gosh. Our director wrote a musical, and it was like everybody had a weird role. So it was like the stereotype roles of a pageant, which was so fun.
Okay.
And my character came out in this big Italian headdress, and I was singing opera. And then all of a sudden, underneath the dress, I pull out this baton, and I'm twirling baton and singing opera, and everything's going chaos all at once. And that was a super fun role. Gosh, I can't even remember. It's been so long. In high school, we did like The Sound of Music and Meet Me in St. Louis and things like that.
Okay.
So, and it's been a little while, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Does any of this exist online as blackmail material?
I wish it did. I would love to see it, but it was VHS tapes. And a lot of people don't get those transferred over. So
yeah.
I would like to see it.
that's better. I'm old enough that like all of my football tape is actual tape. And so it doesn't exist online.
Wow.
And so I'm like, oh yeah, kids, trust me. When I was in high school, I was amazing. There's no evidence, but it was really amazing. Yeah.
I love it.
So we're going to transition back to becoming a cop. You were talking about domestic violence. You were talking about feeling like you needed to do more. You switched your major.
So when I was changing to criminal justice, I also had to do additional college, and my director had me on like the cover of the brochure for the college. From there, a news story picked up that I was going to the big city police department, and I got to provide the picture for that article in the paper. And it was out of my police crime scene class where I developed it myself, but I put my Miss America pageant system crown with a pair of handcuffs dangling off of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun.
So when you were participating in the pageants, is it right to call it a pageant? Is it a competition?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Pageant's just fine.
Okay, so when you're participating in the pageant, you already changed your major. So when you were competing, had you already? I'm not sure the timeline.
It all happened in the middle because I competed for 2 years.
Okay.
So initially I was musical theater when I started off, and then that next year I started changing over to criminal justice, and then I was sold. Do
you think that helped you in the pageant, or do you think it hurt?
I look back at the pictures that I had to go and develop at the drugstore, right? And I think I was probably always quirky because we had some former professional football players as our bodyguards, and they were these giant men. And all the pictures, I'm like, have them from behind, and I'm trying to carry them around, and like, got to work on PT tests and stuff.
Right.
So I definitely swam a little different than the other girls.
Right. So you go through the criminal justice program, and then you go to, I presume you apply at an agency and have to go through an academy.
Yes, sir.
What was the academy like for you?
It was amazing. And I would have known any different, but looking back and now seeing different academies, it was really a good place. And I was hired with one other person, and a big agency out of a lot of people. And he was already friends with my husband or that I was dating at the time, not married yet. So it was very comforting to me. And our class mainly got along, mainly.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun. I didn't have the background of firearms. And so I did very poorly. And so they put me in a class, firearms for females. And somebody took the time one-on-one to show me what I was doing. And once they explained it, it's like a math problem and the teacher working it out on the board. I was like, oh. And then I became a firearms instructor. And then I started, competitively shooting. I just needed that explanation to understand what I was doing wrong. So, that it was great fun in the academy. Good memories.
In your early career, did you try to keep the pageant background and the more feminine side of things more low key, or did you just advertise that for everybody?
I had one supervisor that I adore now, but at the time when that article came out in the paper, I was brand new at that department and I got pulled in and she said, pick. You either be a cop or you do pageants. And I was like, no, you don't understand the amount of hours of community service I do with this. And she goes, pick. And so I had to pause my thoughts before speaking and choosing not to speak. And honestly, I was getting into my career and very interested in it that I did on my own put pageants on the back burner. But I was a little taken aback because I don't think people realize how much community service work you do in the pageant world. So that's what it's about.
That was coming from a female supervisor?
It was coming from a female.
What do you think her thinking was at that time? Like I said, she's different now, whatever.
Sure, absolutely.
But what was her thinking at the time?
I think she thought I was coming in maybe as a girly girl cop. I'm going to break my nail. And I was new. So I hadn't had the chance to prove my ability to her yet. And then once I was in there and on board, I never heard anything. And then now, we message all the time and talk, but she didn't know me. She didn't know what that was going to be like. And so I think I came in as a little bit of a stereotype and had to work out of that.
Which is harder as a female cop, to prove yourself to the guys or to the other females?
Females. Without hesitation.
Why?
Girls are mean to each other. Girls are hard. And I adjunct teach in the criminal justice program here. And we just did this portion of the chapter. I was like, girls are brutal to each other. They do not, and not all, but they feel very competitive because there's so few. And so they want to be the top dog that sticks out in the mind. And, it's bad. I want to, give somebody a step up in life, and some people don't have that philosophy and they want to just step on in life. And so that conflict is difficult.
What's the difference between proving yourself to the females versus the males?
The boys, I remember the first time, they didn't say it, but I was being tested. It was a intoxicated person that was being physically combative, and they stepped back and so to see if I could hold my own, I did, and never had it again. And, girls and boys to me fight different. And I've always been the token or sometimes the only girl and things. And so, girls, we get mad. We won't talk for days. We'll talk about, but we won't talk to.
Right.
Boys. So I had boys when I had an issue with the male coworker, toe to toe in each other's face and say, you want to take it out back after work, or are we going to, and then we're fine. We'll yell, we chew each other out, and then we go eat lunch together, and It's done. It's very quick and over. So I think that fight, that was the first time I noticed it. It was actually a drunk female.
Oh, really?
She was wild. And so that's later on, I was like, oh, they just tested me. They wanted to see if I was going to freeze up or how I'd back them. And I think that was fair.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to let me get hurt. Sure. They were there, but they wanted to see if I could hold my own. And that's just one thing that really sticks out at me. I know there was other calls that I think they stepped back and kind of observed to see how I will handle arguing with someone or not. But a lot of times I was able to de-escalate a conversation, and then I would have a male counterpart come in and it would all escalate. Now we're having to, fight for our lives. So
tell me about your first promotion. What's it like to be a supervisor of mostly men as a woman?
it depends on where you are. Where I am in Oklahoma, there's not a lot of females in this area. When I moved here, I did not know anything about Oklahoma. I'd never been here. I truly moved for the job. And the chair of the hiring committee, she told me, she goes, yeah, people were questioning, I can't believe you hired a female. I can't believe you hired a female. And she said, no, I hired the best candidate for the job that happened to come in the form of a female. And I was like, oh, I like her. And then I got here and there was some reservation. Some people going, oh, that girl. And I didn't have uniforms for a while, so I would wear suits. Well, I also have my background that I do. So my suits would have heels and a gun and a badge. And they're like, can you run on that? And I was like, I'll give you a head start and let's find out. And they were like, what? And I was like, no, I'm serious. Go. and so, a lot of people just aren't used to, there's just not a lot of females out here. And so people just weren't sure. And I think after sitting back and seeing, and there's different ways of looking at law enforcement. Some people want to stop every car and do all that. Some people, I'm very community service driven. And so I think that's a great benefit, especially where I work. So I just really proving myself to people.
The first time you had to, grade reports and maybe even issue discipline, what I see is that if somebody gets in trouble from a male supervisor, they just take it. But they get in trouble from a female, she's a whatever, right? Yes. And so I don't know if you encountered that, but
I am so fortunate that I have not, that I'm aware of. Let me just say that.
Yeah, no, not your face, right?
Not about who. No, so I'm very fortunate that I have not. I feel like disciplining a female has been harder.
Really?
I just feel like it was taken more personal, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. I'm just going off the facts. So yeah, I don't think it went as well as I think some of the men would have taken it.
Okay. Let's move over to the point of view that you've gained by going up through the ranks and being a supervisor, having to hire people and fire people and issue discipline and that kind of thing. When you see other women in law enforcement, what kind of mistakes do they make? What kind of wisdom can you share to help them?
And even for women thinking about getting on law enforcement, and then those that are in and they start at the entry level, and I think don't. My don'ts are don't stop trying to improve yourself. Don't fail to put in for those supervisor opportunities. You may not get it this time, but you're going to gain that experience of going through the hiring process, and you're going to kind of learn what they're looking for to improve yourself next time. Don't count yourself out. Don't give up after a failed attempt of anything. Don't let someone convince you that you can't do it. Don't discount yourself. Find a training that you're comfortable with, and that still exists. But in South Carolina, I helped teach a female officer survival school. Find something in that area, because that was such an eye opener to have a class taught by women for women where they felt comfortable asking the questions and going, hey, I don't really have this defensive technique or the shooting technique down, but they felt comfortable in their space. And, it's okay to show emotions. And because boys show emotions too, whether we get to catch that or not, we're all human, whether, and having an outlet to talk to, whether it's another female officer, to prayer like we talked about, or someone at home, but don't keep that bottled up.
That's excellent.
So I have seen females freeze up on calls, and then they weren't trusted by male partners or female partners that they worked with. And so if they recognize that early on in themselves, I challenge them to try to spend some time in the areas that they don't feel comfortable. Because if you don't feel comfortable, you're not going to do it. If I don't practice the language and I go to that country, I'm going to be very shy of doing it because I just don't feel comfortable with it. So get comfortable, because these things could save your lives. But yeah, somebody not taking the call and going on, and one of the boys can get that. That kind of bothers me, because we work so hard to show that we are capable,
Mm-hmm.
we can do things, and the stigmatism out there. So when I do see someone taking that big step back and trying to pull that card, that aggravates me because we've worked so hard to move forward.
You're saying really, if you feel like there's a type of call that you don't like, you need to make yourself be in the front of the line for it.
A type of call or a physical thing, like getting in fights, and you're afraid that maybe your stature's a little different, or maybe you're just not used to getting in those physical altercations, then asking for that extra defensive tactic class or some kind of training or jujitsu or something where you feel comfortable making contact with another individual in a scary situation.
Yeah.
And then not having to learn and get injured.
Yeah.
So I did triathlons and I did Ironman, just trying to improve my own physical ability so that I could protect not only myself, but like the public.
Yeah. Force yourself into your uncomfortable space.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Excellent. Fantastic. That's really good. I happen to know that you've been in law enforcement for 28 years and you've been married for 27. That's a rare quality to do law enforcement, be married for 27 years.
It is.
What's the secret of your success?
I wish I knew. No, but we communicate. Our lives are drastically different. We have 4 boys and we've always worked different shifts. He's not in law enforcement, but he's always had crazy shifts. And so, sometimes we're just getting to catch up via text. Sometimes it's a quick phone call. Sometimes I can see him as we're running in and out. And just being honest of what everybody's dealing with. I recognize like certain times a year that are busy for his work. He knows mine as well. But then when we have that downtime, being able to communicate, okay, here's the doctor's appointments the kids have for this month. This is who's going to do it. And having routines. My kids are very, very routine babies. During summer months, we have a crazy yard. So he does the backyard and I do the inside of the house. But in winter months, sometimes we break that up. But if I see that he's having a hard week at work, I don't need to go, hey, you didn't do I'll go do it, And so that saves a lot of fights.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. You guys have kids, you said?
4 boys.
4 boys. Hey,
oh my gosh.
I've got 4 boys and a girl. And so, yeah.
Oh, you have me beat, that poor young lady.
Well, she's got 4 older brothers who have protected her very well. And
oh my goodness. Yeah. I hope she has her own bathroom, though.
She does. She does now.
Okay. That would be a deal breaker.
Yeah. Well, so you had 4 kids and somehow that did not derail your professional career.
It was a challenge.
Any advice on navigating having a family, which a lot of women, I think, postpone even to the point of maybe missing the opportunity. So how do you manage, if I have a baby this year, I'm not going to get promoted, because it's going to take me out of circulation and I've got to fight my way back in.
Sure.
How do you navigate that?
Well, and I think one thing is finding out your department policy on pregnancy. I've had kids working for 3 different departments when I had the 4. And so some require you to go to light duty immediately. Sometimes it's your choice, sometimes not. And when you have to come back and what you could do light duty. So navigating some of that will take some of the stress off. But even while I was pregnant, if a position came open and I knew physically it wasn't the right time for me, I still went ahead and expressed interest in a well-written email and said, I'm really interested in this position. I know it doesn't come open a lot. And I know that you want to fill it before I'm available, but I really would like to talk to you, supervisor, whoever, about a future opportunity doing that and just getting put on the radar and doing things that I could do at least, or any trainings, because not every training is physical. So if it's some kind of educational training that I could start accruing those hours, then get it. That way, when you are ready and it does come open, then you're the best candidate out there.
Yeah, take advantage of the light duty time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's something some people let slide right by. They'll have an injury and they'll sit at a report desk and just kind of twiddle their thumbs. It's like, actually, if you just showed that you had some initiative, that might be rewarded. And
absolutely. Yeah. And I'm big on education too. If you have downtime, go back to school.
Yeah.
Finish another degree. I'm my end goal is a law degree. So, and it's a struggle trying to balance everything. And I've taken timeouts in my education process, but never stop trying to learn.
Yeah. You got to play the long game too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very much.
Well, Chief, thank you so much for talking
Yes, sir.
to me
Thank
today,
you. I
and
appreciate you.
and thank you for being in a position where you can encourage others to aspire to the top of the pyramid and to really achieve great things and be successful in their careers. I appreciate the example you're setting.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
I want to thank listener and Oklahoma Police Chaplain Scott Hume for recommending Chief Brown. I get a lot of recommendations, and many of them just don't work out for a myriad of reasons. But I love it when a listener who just connects with the show and understands what my mission and purpose is makes a recommendation that fits the show, and then the details work out. Well, I love it when a plan comes together. On the next episode of Hey Chaplain, it's episode number 99. And I'm going to give you a peek behind the scenes with the list of topics that I have been working on. Specifically, I'll give you 99 topics that I've been working on, and maybe you can help. You maybe know somebody in one of these fields or connected to one of these topics. Perhaps you can make a suggestion to improve one of those topics. If nothing else, it'll give you something to look forward to as I keep producing episodes over the coming years. Please remember that this show is a free resource for everyone because of those supporters who are quietly helping behind the scenes. If you want to help this show reach more cops, chaplains, and other first responders around the world, please consider supporting this show by following the link in the episode description. The views expressed here are the personal views of the host and our guest, and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components. If you like this episode, please share it with a cop or someone who loves a cop. Thank you for listening to Hey Chaplain, and as always, pray for peace in our city. How many years in law enforcement?
Gosh, 28.
28 years in law enforcement.
I was 2 when I started. That's what we're going
right.
with.
That's right. That's right. You've mentioned your husband. How long have you been married?
Since, oh gosh, I got to do the math here. Oh, you're going to have to pause this a whole bunch.
Oh, I'll make it look like you came up with the answer immediately.
I got to do the math. 27.
27. You're a year behind me and my wife.
Years. Yeah, I'm like, oh no.
Well, congratulations.
And I would get so mad if he paused. It took that long, so don't tell him.
I don't know. The only thing is, we're laughing about it. I'm tempted to put it in the outtakes at the end of the episode.
Put it in.
Yeah.